Here's Jeff Marek from the sheet, staying up late Eastern time. He just had to get on in. Jeff, we had you on the regular Sekers and Price show today, and we discussed all this, and we said, you know, it's a huge marketplace, and there may be teams that we haven't even discussed all that much in on Quinn Hughes. Your initial thoughts, my friend, on this deal?
Massive. I mean, whenever you trade someone like Quinn Hughes, whenever you trade a superstar caliber player, it's tough to quote unquote win the trade. You just try to minimize as much damage as possible. To me, the whole thing from Vancouver's point of view hinges on Zeev Buium. I mean, Liam Ogrren is a really nice left winger. Probably a second line winger. I mean, considering he has played previously with Jonathan Lekkerimäki, maybe you can help jumpstart Lekkerimäki. You know, back at that draft in 2022, you know, the three players that the Vancouver Canucks coveted and all kind of had around the same area was Philip Bistad, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, and Liam Ogrren, and they prioritized the guy that can shoot, can really fire the puck in Jonathan Lekkerimäki, and that was considered a deal that he was down that low for the Vancouver Canucks at that point. Just heard you talking about Marco Rossi a couple of seconds ago. Vancouver's wanted Marco Rossi for a long time. Like this goes back a while. Like the Marco Rossi talk goes back to, I don't know, 2021, 2022. It's been a long time that the Vancouver Canucks have had a good look at Marco Rossi and said he will fit here. We want him here. But again, he's a second line center. Ogrren probably trending to a middle six left winger. The whole thing is going to hinge on how good Zeev Buium is going to do with the Vancouver Canucks. That to me is the whole deal right there. Again, you're not going to quote unquote win a Quinn Hughes trade. You're going to give yourself the best chance to try to reduce the damage here. And make no mistake about it. Like, this was probably of all the offers. We're all trying to think, like, okay, what would Detroit have offered? It would be like, you know, I'm sure Vancouver would have wanted Casper, but Edvinsson would be there. Nate Danielson would be in that one as well. We know that Washington didn't want to part with someone like Ryan Leonard, probably weren't too thrilled with parting with Alexei Protas. This was probably, at this time right now, the best deal that Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin could make.
And Jeff, it's funny you name-check Detroit, because what's the equivalency there? It's probably Edvinsson, Casper, Danielson, and a first-round pick, right?
And a first-round pick. And I don't think they wanted to do I can't see Detroit doing Casper as well.
Yeah, despite his struggles this year.
That would be a tough one.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
And look, I completely understand your point in terms of, and look, I am not taking this position because I'm the best defenseman the Canucks have ever had after Quinn Hughes. I'm taking this position because I do genuinely believe it, and that is the old axiom of, the best player in the trade wins the trade, to me is wholly outdated in a salary cap world where you're putting together a jigsaw puzzle, have X number of dollars to work with, and have your 18 skaters and 2 goaltenders to fill out. The other reason I'm saying this is because we had talked about, and with you, that the most comparable trade to Quinn Hughes being available was probably the Ottawa Senators trading Erik Karlsson a number of years ago. And you can even argue he was more of a diminished accent because he had a significant ankle injury, if I'm not mistaken, at the time of that trade. Well, that trade goes down, and the whole hockey world said, oh, my God, what a fleecing for the San Jose Sharks. And then you look down several years later and you go, holy cow, the Ottawa Senators got Tim Stützle, Josh Norris, Chris Tierney, that's 1, 2, 3 centers, and a second pair defenseman in Dylan DeMello. The Ottawa Senators did pretty well in that Erik Karlsson trade. And so I do wonder, with the passage of time, if this trade is going to look kinder and kinder on Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin.
That's why I keep coming back to the whole thing hinges on Zeev Buium. And I'm not sure, like, I would be very curious, if you inject Bill Guerin with truth serum here, or maybe some more from Jim Rutherford, I really wonder at what point the Minnesota Wild included Zeev Buium in this deal, right? Like was it one of the first pieces that got Vancouver's interest? Was it the last piece that pushed this one over the finish line? Because to me, the whole thing is going to hinge here. Like, right away, when you're, like, I'm just trying to think, like, you're Bill Guerin, you're talking to Jim Rutherford. What is it, about a week ago when all these discussions with Minnesota started? I'm pretty sure this is a guess, but it would feel to me like Zeev Buium would not be your opening offer. You would get there. You would try as much as you can. Someone like Zeev Buium, but again, was it the last piece that got this over the hump? Was it all of a sudden Bill Guerin looking around the landscape, and it's not just Detroit and New Jersey, it's also, Carolina's in this mix, and a lot of other teams are in the mix as well, and finally you relent and say, all right, we have to have Zeev. If we're going to get the player, we need to have Zeev Buium in this deal. That to me is one of the questions. Like, how did all of this come together? But the whole thing, again, like Maddie, the whole thing is, I'm with you on this. Like in a salary cap universe, this isn't like, the Lindros deal and Peter Forsberg, etc. It is different, and these are two teams that are in different places in their winning cycle. But the whole thing is Zeev Buium. That is this deal for Vancouver.
So
the
Jeff,
pieces are nice. Zeev Buium could be a star.
Yeah, Jeff, you covered the 2024 NHL entry draft. I would like to get your 2 cents on the type of players Buium is, if you can fill Canucks fans in on that. And then I remember watching your coverage and others that he was the guy who was falling, right? Like, oh my God, can't believe he's available at number 12. Every team says it. We couldn't believe he was available, but in this case, they were actually telling the truth on Buium.
100%. Like, I really thought that Zeev Buium, and this was like the big shock of that draft, Beckett Seneca goes 3rd overall to the Anaheim Ducks. I was convinced that Pat Verbeek was going to take Zeev at 3. Like, this kid is a tremendous skater, amazing vision, has a motor on him that Vancouver Canucks fans are going to love. He is a special defenseman. Like, Minnesota was looking at this and looking at their first pair and saying, like, man, we've got Zeev Buium and Brock Faber here for the next 10 years, and we're going to have a top blue line in the NHL. I cannot speak enough about how highly I think of Zeev Buium. This guy's going to be an level defenseman for a lot of years. Is he going to be Quinn Hughes? No.
Yeah,
but
well, who is, right?
He's
a small list in the history of the league.
Yeah. If he is, it's a tape measure home run for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah. Because
they've filled other holes and they've picked up a 1st-round pick as well that they can either use or they can peddle. But Buium, like, Vancouver Canucks fans are going to really like Zeev Buium, and there's a lot of reasons to like Zeev Buium. And the first thing you got to notice is the skating. This is the engine for me for Zeev Buium. I thought he was going as high as 3, and I was not in the minority on that one. That one was a stunner for all of us. And the only thing that I think a lot of us could think of was, is it the size? I mean, he's not walking in here as a 6'5", going to cross-check you in front of the net kind of guy. Yep. He's a puck mover, moves his feet, really fast player.
Yeah, he's 6 foot, 185 pounds. Also talked about, this is a really interesting background for a hockey player. He is the
California.
Son. Well, beyond that, Jeff, he is the son of 2 Israelis who moved to San Diego. And I mean, San Diego would be strange enough on its own, but Israel to San Diego. And here's the other thing. His mother was a professional basketball player who, when her playing career ended, she moved into the front office and became a general manager. So he's got sports in his background, and he's got sports leadership in his background and his family with his mother.
One more note on mom, because Zeev Buium talks about his mother all the time, and for good reason. So he, you're right, living in San Diego, he played his youth hockey in Los Angeles. And that drive every day from San Diego to Los Angeles was made by mom.
In choked traffic, right, Jeff? Like you were inching along on these California freeways, leaving 4 hours before a practice.
You hate everything about it. And mom is, as we say at the Bell Center, la première étoile, the first star. Never a complaint, nothing. Got in the car and drove every single day so this guy could play youth hockey in Los Angeles.
The other thing I want to add here, this was a kid who made his National Hockey League debut in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Jeff. We know that's a rare animal. We know but we know you have to be a certain level player if they're going to drop you in to a Stanley Cup playoff round. Ogrren, what can you tell us about Liam Ogrren here? Who's the other? Because Rossi we sort of know, but give me your 2 cents on Liam Ogrren.
Liam Ogren's not a superstar. Liam Ogren's not going to step into a first-line left-wing spot, but Liam Ogren's going to be a really sort of middle six guy. He probably plateaus as second-line left winger with the Vancouver Canucks. I don't think you're getting 50 goals out of Liam Ogrren. Really serviceable, really smart player, like a really heady kind of guy. And again, the thing that I do wonder about here is, and this is where it can really hit with Vancouver, and again, we're going back to like 2021, playing a couple of years in Djurgården with Jonathan Lekkerimäki. If this can help get Lekkerimäki going, if that chemistry, because those two really were a story together. If that can get Lekkerimäki going as well, that is an unofficial, it's not as part of the trade, an unofficial benefit of this Quinn Hughes deal. You might have done a really solid for another first-round draft pick. They had him high. You know, like I said, like it was him, Bstad, and Lekkerimäki. They all had right in that zone where they ended up taking Lekkerimäki.
That is great stuff, Jeff. Thank you for your insights on that, your evaluations on these players. Really appreciate you being available to us late at night here. You got a final thought? You got a final thought?
I do have a thought. I do have a question. Because, you know, Jim Rutherford, you know, talking about how we kind of had like Rutherford's been around for a long time, and like his intuition is really, really good. And he's saying, like, you know, a year and a half ago, you had the gut feeling that Quinn Hughes wasn't going to re-sign. Like if it got to that point, and maybe you have a thought on this one, but I'm still a little bit scrambling on it after hearing this here. Why the Connor Garland deal and why the Thatcher Demko deal?
Oh, and Jeff, don't get me started, because I was a critic of both of those deals, saying you had time, you chose not to use it, and particularly with Thatcher Demko, given his injury history, and particularly after you had re-signed Kevin Lankinen. Like when I saw the Lankinen extension last year, I thought it was in the vein of, great, they're going to secure the goal next year with two terrific goaltenders, and then they're going to bid farewell to Thatcher Demko, whether it's at the trade deadline if they're out of the playoffs or in free agency. Lankinen, you'll have a $4.5 million goaltender. You bring a young goaltender up, or maybe you have a stopgap goaltender. I think what's at play here is that's a really easy thing to say at this stage of the game. If you're Jim Rutherford, it's a very convenient thing. It's a very rationalizing thing to say. I don't disbelieve it, though. I believe it's true. I believe Quinn Hughes had experienced enough of the dysfunction of Canuck sports entertainment long ago. This is a unique franchise. It operates very differently than a lot of other franchises. At its best, it tries to be a mom-and-pop operation where everybody knows everyone from the owner on down. Yeah. At its worst, it's the owner getting involved in the lives of these players as well as in the hockey managing. And I think Quinn Hughes looked around, and you know his father, who is a very hard and unrelenting man, and thought, oh, okay, we have two guys who are playing in an organization that is ascending and on the upswing. Dad knows how a number of other organizations work around the National Hockey League. The Canucks are irregular. The Canucks are dysfunctional. The Canucks have not had a lot of success. Let's get our boy out of Vancouver. I can wholeheartedly believe and see that being the case, and Rutherford knowing of this for some time.
For sure. And the other part of this too, like we think about the New Jersey Devils through all of this situation right now, and a couple of things come to mind. July 1st, Quinn Hughes can sign an 8-year contract extension with the Minnesota Wild. The other thing that I think, correct, Maddie, I think I've been consistent with you. I've been consistent with you on your program all season long that I'm not so sure that at the end of the day it's a New Jersey Devils. I mean, the allure of playing with your brothers is one thing, but at the same time, it's not just playing with your brothers. It's also, if you're Quinn Hughes, you walk into New Jersey, you just took your brother's spot.
That's it. Luke's playing power play one.
It's like,
and Minnesota has
gone. Sorry, Luke.
Yeah. And Minnesota has an opportunity now, Jeff, to make Quinn fall in love with them and sign him to that 8-year max extension before this September. If you're not familiar with what Jeff's talking about, there have been changes to the CBA. The current rules are in place till September 15th, which means
Correct.
you can sign an Indigenous free agent to an 8-year deal. Somebody, another team can only go as much as 7. But on September 16th, that changes to 7 years maximum to sign an Indigenous free agent. 6 years if you're poaching. And so there was the difference of 2 potential years here for Quinn in New Jersey, and leaving a lot of money on the table.
There's one other major factor, too, that players just of Quinn Hughes' ilk love. It's your last shot at really striking it rich with the front-loaded deal and the bonuses.
That is the other thing, and that is an exceptional point, Mr. Marek. Yep.
And you talked about his father, Jim, who just, look at that, just happens to work for CAA, one of the wisest.
I never got the sense his father liked it here, Jeff. I had heard some stories around town, Quinn blowing off an appearance, in fact, blowing it off 2 separate occasions, leaving a lot of people waiting here. I had gotten, somebody told me recently they were sick of Francesco. I'm not sure Jim Hughes ever took to this market or to this team. And frankly, given the way it's been run, I don't blame him. So I think this day had been coming for a while. Oftentimes, I think when you make a trade like this and trade a popular player, the best defenseman in franchise history, one of the greatest players in franchise history, managers and presidents will say a lot of things to keep themselves off the hook. In this case, when Rutherford says he had known for some time that Quinn was probably leaning of signing somewhere else, I believe that.
Yep. Excellent points. What are we going to talk about next week on the show with you?
Yeah, no, I know. We're like fresh out of topics here. Get your Kiefer Sherwood hot takes ready, okay? I need you to do some digging. Find out where Kiefer Sherwood is headed. They love the Friday afternoon, evening trade dump.
Hey,
Jeff,
dude,
so
I'll tell you
know.
what. I would not be surprised if he ends up with the team that we're talking about right now, to be honest with you.
Really? Pray tell.
Can you hang on? Can you not see Kiefer Sherwood ending up a member of the Minnesota Wild?
I could, but what else do they have to trade? They just traded the farm, Jeff.
Well, look, you always look for teams that are comfortable trading with others. Like in a massive deal like this between Bill Guerin, who would know Jim Rutherford going back to the Pittsburgh Penguins deals, there's a level of comfort there already. That's a player that the Minnesota Wild can use, considering that now that Quinn Hughes has entered the Central Division as well. All of a sudden, that division gets even stronger. And you're going to have to go through probably Dallas in the opening round. Colorado. If you're going to do anything here, you're going to have to slay 2 dragons. I don't think Aaron's done by any stretch of the imagination. And considering, what Kiefer Sherwood can bring in the playoffs here, given the way that he plays, I don't know. If I'm looking around the landscape and looking for a take for Kiefer Sherwood, I'll say, why not the Minnesota Wild?
Yeah.
If they're going to do anything against Dallas and Colorado, they got to muscle up, and they started with Quinn Hughes.
Awesome stuff. Jeff, thanks for staying up late. I appreciate this. Thanks for jumping on the program. That's Jeff Marek, everybody. The Sheet right here on the Nation Network, 10 a.m. Pacific time daily. He joins our program, Sekers and Price, on Fridays.